Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this great lecture series called My Business Journey, and we have Dr. Batra here for you. This is the third edition of our lecture series, which has been started in the current year by the President of IMC, Dr. Lalit Kanodia, and ably handled by Mr. Raj Nayak, the Vice President of IMC. The series aims to highlight the business journey of icons who have made it big in their lifetime. The last two speakers in the series have been Dr. Niranjan Hiranandani and our Dr. Lalit Kanodia himself. So before I invite the President, Dr. Lalit Kanodia, I would like to say a few words about him. Dr. Kanodia is the chairman of the Datamatics Global Services Limited, which he founded in the year 1975. He is the founder of and the CEO of Tata Consultancy Services. So he is iconic. Then he's a mechanical engineer. He's a mechanical engineer from IIT Mumbai, an MBA and PhD from MIT USA. Dr. Kanodia was awarded the Asia Pacific Entrepreneurship Award in 2015 for outstanding and exemplary achievements in entrepreneurship. He's a fellow of the Ford Foundation. He's a former national president of the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce and former chairman of the Electronic and Computer Software Export Promotion Council. He has also been the member of the executive he is actually at present the member of the executive committee of NASSCOM. Earlier, he was consultant to the Ford Motor Company and Arthur D. Little. He has taught at the Jamnalal Bajaj Institute of Management Studies and MIT USA, and he's currently on the board of MIT Europe, Asia and Africa. He was also the honorary consul of Chile in Mumbai between 2002 and 2014. So I now invite the President, Dr. Lalit Kanodia, to say a few words to welcome and to introduce Dr. Batra. Thank you.
Dr. Mukesh Batra, Mr. Raj Nayak, Mr. Arvind Pradhan, students in the audience, ladies and gentlemen, it's my proud privilege today to introduce Dr. Mukesh Batra, whom I'm a great admirer of, to this very august gathering. Before I introduce him, let me spend 2 minutes about the whole purpose of this series of lectures. I believe that you, this audience, particularly the students and the young entrepreneurs, are the future of India. Why do I say that? India needs to create 1 million jobs every month. I repeat, 1 million jobs every month. The population of Switzerland is 8 million. So we have a Herculean job in front of us. And these jobs, any number of studies worldwide, we have published and can be seen on the web. It has been amply demonstrated that the only people who can create jobs are the startups and the medium and small scale enterprises, what are called the MSMEs. So therefore, I think it's an obligation on all of us to encourage the young people who are in this audience to start their own enterprises and to become successful in life, because they are the future of India. To illustrate, from my own alma mater, MIT alumni have started 26,000 companies. I repeat, 26,000 companies. And the combined sales of these 26,000 companies is $3 trillion, which is 1.5 times the GDP of India and 16% of the GDP of the United States of America. So that is the value of entrepreneurship. So I really believe, I strongly believe, I cannot put it more forcefully, that the future of India lies in people like yourself. And therefore we want to motivate. I was telling Dr. Saab that we need 100 Dr. Batras. If we can do that, then we will have succeeded in our endeavor. So the idea is to motivate all of you to do your best and to make it happen. And I can tell you that I was very happy when I invited the director of IIT Bombay some time ago. He said 25%, Dr. Saab, of their students become entrepreneurs, which is music to my ears. It's a wonderful thing that's happened. Now let me tell you something about Dr. Batra. See, Dr. Batra is synonymous with the word homeopathy. And I believe homeopathy holds the key to many of our medical problems in India. As all of you know, medical care and costs in this country have a lot to be accomplished. We need more doctors. We need to lower our medical costs so that it becomes affordable to more and more and more people. And as most of you know, the entire field of homeopathy was started in Germany by Dr. Samuel Hahnemann not too long ago, about 150 years ago. And the funny thing is that it is caught on more. We think that homeopathy is very Indian. And I was hearing a lecture by Dr. Batra, I think about a year ago, when he pointed out that France practices homeopathy much more than most other countries. I didn't know that. 70% of the physicians in France prescribe homeopathic medicines. 120,000 of them practice homeopathy, and they treat 6.7 million patients a year, with 10% of the French population. So all I can do is emphasize that homeopathy is an accepted form of medicine, which I think we need to recognize, and who better than Dr. Batra to talk about it. Let me briefly introduce Dr. Batra. He is, of course, the founder and the chairman of the Dr. Batra group of companies. After having his medical degree in homeopathy from the Bombay Homeopathic Medical College, his many qualifications, LCEH, FHMA UK, FRs, SH in medicine, London, MDH, USA, BIH, UK, and so on. A whole list, I can go on and on. He's got a whole list of qualifications behind him. You may be surprised to know he's unique, and I think he's the right person to address the audience because he is a professional and he's also an entrepreneur and a businessman, and you can't beat that combination. He has 225 clinics across 130 cities of India and worldwide. Dr. Saab, I don't know how you've done it, and I'm waiting to hear that. Amazing. Really amazing job. It treats over 10 lakh patients every year. And I believe that they give free medicine to 50,000 patients every year. So he's also a philanthropist. I must also tell you, since I'm talking about his other accomplishments, he's a very good photographer, professional photographer. He's invited to photograph sites all over the country. He's a wonderful singer. I've heard the program. I was fortunate that he invited me to a program which he organized where he sang for 2 hours, and I was sitting there enthralled at his voice. And most important, he's a great human being. So I think we have a unique person in Dr. Batra here. Let me tell you, he has trained over 500 doctors around the world. The first Asian homeopath to be awarded the fellowship of the British and American Homeopathic Associations, and he's the only homeopath to address the American Pediatric Association. He's been recognized by the House of Commons in the UK Parliament. Sir, the great company, we feel very proud of you. Dr. Batra has received the Padma Shri in recognition of what he has done for this country. And of course, he's got the Pride of India Award in New York. His clinics in London were recognized as the best clinics by Europe Business Assembly. It's really remarkable what he has done. So I can tell you, you have a lot to learn from a person like Dr. Batra. I'm personally also looking forward to hearing him today. Now, before I end, let me do my job as president of IMC and tell you something about IMC for the students who are here for maybe for the first time. We were established in 1907, 110-year-old. This building where you are sitting right now, the foundation stone was laid by none other than Sardar Patel, our first Deputy Prime Minister of India. the only chamber where Mahatma Gandhi was an honorary member. Virtually every President and Prime Minister of India have addressed this chamber. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has addressed this chamber twice, once when he was Chief Minister of Gujarat in May 13 and recently in April 2017. We are the voice, Dr. Saab, of 2 lakh corporates. So we represent 2 lakh corporates. We are organized as 46 committees, all headed by the who's who. We have 150 MOUs across the world with other countries, and we allow associations to become our members, and 160 associations besides the academic institutes are members of IMC. 2 of our recent chairmen of our committees, by recent I mean just 4 or 5 years ago, Mr. Suresh Prabhu and Mr. Piyush Goyal are now Dr. Saab Union Cabinet Ministers. So I think this chamber is blessed in more ways than one, and we have unparalleled reach to the union and the state governments. With this, I don't want to stand between you and Dr. Batra. I am myself eagerly looking forward to hearing him. I heard many times professionally, but I have not heard his business journey. So I'm looking forward to his business journey, where there's so much to learn, and I'm looking forward to learning from him. Dr. Saab, thank you. Dr. Saab, I do my duty to say thank you for token.
Thank you, Dr. Kanodia, for your kind words. I now have to stand up to them, which is really a difficult task. Dr. Kanodia, Rajji, Arvindji, my district governor, Gopalji, my president nominee of my Rotary Club, Preetiji, fellow Rotarians, some of them I can see here, Mudit, thank you for being here, my family, and my friends, ladies and gentlemen. They say that it all starts with a dream. Add faith to it, and it becomes a belief. Add action, and it becomes a part of life. Add perseverance, patience, and time to it, and it ends with a dream come true. This is what most success stories are made up of, and the story of Dr. Batra's is no different. Faith in homeopathy, belief that it will emerge one day as one of the leading systems of medicine, action to convert this belief into reality, along with perseverance, patience, and time, was all that was needed to make Dr. Batra's what it is today, the world's largest chain of homeopathy clinics. Of doctors, we have 120 years of homeopathy in our blood and in our DNA. I think my son Akshay is also here, 3rd generation homeopath. I took up homeopathy because I thought that was the easiest option at that time. However, I soon realized that not only I had to learn medicine, gynecology, surgery, and other regular medical subjects, but also homeopathic materia medica and philosophy. They say that for a film star, God sits in the box office every Friday. Therefore, while an actor is good as his last film, a doctor is as good as his present patient. A patient's life often depends on the doctor's success. It is therefore a very exacting profession. I also realized that medicine involved human behavior, and therefore I simultaneously studied psychology from the University of Pune. To sustain myself as a student while studying medicine and arts, I took up a summer job as an accounts clerk in a travel agency and a salesman selling Coca-Cola. I believe if you can sell Coke and insurance, you can sell anything. This experience gave me a strong grounding in marketing. Jo dikhta hai, wo bikta hai is equally important to promote your system of medicine. Life is not only about taking opportunities that come your way, but also knowing what you don't want. It is about making the right choices at the right time. When I was graduating in 1973, and I'm sure some of you were not even born at that time, I was offered a job at rupees 150 per month as a lecturer at Mumbai University. This was a good offer, especially for a fresher.
But I refused the post and started practice in a charitable clinic in Mumbai at the salary of 150 rupees per month, as I wanted clinical experience. I wanted to be at the bedside of my patients. I also worked in a free clinic in Dharavi, Asia's largest slum, and in the bullion market, not changing gold but treating patients. I changed 3 buses to go to work and waded through waist-deep waters through Mumbai's monsoons and worked without a single holiday for the first 9 years of my practice. If someone tells you that some things in life come easy, don't ever believe it. Success is not the result of spontaneous combustion. You must set yourself on fire to get it. When I started my practice in 1974, I faced umpteen challenges, sailing through which was like riding against the tide. I am happy to report that 40 years later, the tide has turned and homeopathy has received great acceptance. My first dilemma was, how could I make money out of other people's suffering? A doctor was then seen as a healer, a family physician, a friend, and even a matchmaker. Very often patients came to us and said, don't you know any, wonderful girls for my son? I'd like, them to get married. This was more so in the case of homeopathy. When the missionary brought homeopathy to India, they set up many free clinics. These mushroomed over the years, and together with a large number of amateur practitioners, led to the belief that homeopathy was good for free. If you had to pay for it, you better consult a specialist. So challenge number 1 was to legitimize homeopathy as a paid professional service. It has been said that the science of medicine is the art of healing. It was thought that homeopathy was more an art than a science, a hit and miss method. It works for some, doesn't work for others. Agar suit kar gayi to theek, varna. Over the years, homeopathy has evolved from a work-from-home, self-taught profession to a profession that has grown over 5,000 crores in India alone. Challenge number 2 was to correctly position homeopathy as a modern medical tool and to increase its acceptance. According to the latest World Health Organization estimates, homeopathy today is the 2nd largest system of medicine in the world, and over 200 million people use it worldwide. It was also believed that homeopathy works only with experience. दादी माँ के नुस्खे और दादाजी की गोलियाँ एक समान मानी जाती थी. You had to have grey hair to prescribe white pills. So challenge number 3 was to change the fuddy-duddy perception of homeopathy into a modern therapy practiced by young progressive doctors. Currently, the average age of our doctors at Dr. Batra's is 34. I believe that a young workforce means having more innovative minds. It also means that we are able to better leverage technology and increase efficiency. Medicine gets easily outdated as new technology and even newer diseases make old knowledge irrelevant. During my time, there was no bird flu, no AIDS, not even chikungunya. In the 80s, when I was training doctors at City University, London, there was a big scare of people dying of Legionnaires' disease, a disease which caused respiratory distress in patients due to cross-infection in hospitals through air-conditioned ducts. While experience is important in medicine, young doctors adapt easily to newer forms of knowledge. Continual medical education and a strong knowledge management system help our doctors to keep themselves updated of latest technology and the happenings of the medical world. The 4th challenge came from the personalized and individualistic nature of homeopathy treatment. This imposes a growth limit since there are only so many patients that one doctor can handle. So the 4th challenge was to professionalize the service and create a scalable, replicable business model that could work independently of me and reach economies of scale. Presently, with over 400 doctors, 2,000 employees, We serve 36 lakh consumers every year through our services and products from across 225 clinics in 130 cities in 5 countries and over 5,000 outlets. In the next 3 years, we aim at reaching around 1 crore people in a year. Reach and impact of our outcome drive us to success. The world erupted with one big bang, and every enterprise starts with one big idea. My big idea was to offer the consumer a choice of treatment. Conventional medicine was so strongly institutionalized and zealously protected by the pharma industry that it offered the consumer no choice. During my early years of practice, lots of patients presented themselves with side effects of medicines they had taken. I remember the case of a patient who had a persistent cough for many, many years. He was on an antihypertensive remedy for blood pressure. The moment his blood pressure medicine was changed, his cough disappeared. It is sometimes impossible to differentiate a drug symptom from a disease symptom. Almost every treatment that has an effect has a side effect. It is estimated that over 300 people die every day in America, the same as a Boeing crash, due to drug-induced disorders. This is now recognized as iatrogenic disorders by conventional medicine. The turning point came in 1982 when I started Positive Health Clinic, the world's first branded computerized clinic in homeopathy. I worked with 2 software engineers and created amongst the first electronic medical case history in the world. It's interesting to know at that time people said, why don't you take 10 MD doctors for 10,000 rupees a month instead of buying a computer for 1,25,000. And I remember that I used to call it the big evil eye because it was green in color. We had to put a screen in the front, and it was a dot matrix printer, and every time I took out a prescription, the whole building shook. It went tuck, 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 tuck. But in spite of that, that was my belief in technology. And we then set up the world's first cyber clinic, treating almost 500,000 patients through the internet before the millennium, which is still recognized in the Limca Book of World Records. We recognized years before computerization came to India that technology would drive medical innovations and be an enabler for growth. When I set up my first clinic through a small 175 square feet place in South Mumbai, there was no institutional finance available for homeopaths. We never got those messages on our phone saying, please take loans, please come to our bank. It was a different era altogether. I borrowed partly from a small mercantile bank and mainly through personal borrowings at the rate of 36% per annum, which was the rate of interest of one of the riskiest businesses at that time, Bollywood. My break-even was 67,000 rupees per month in 1982, and my income at that time had reached 25,000. So you need to have a risk-taking ability if you want to become a good entrepreneur. And you have to take calculated risks and not worry about what's going to happen. Jump into the fire and make it work for you. It took me 10 years to repay my loans. I vowed to run a zero-debt enterprise, and we have remained so for a major part of our business life. In 1996, we started our clinics in multiple cities. Management gurus go gung-ho about futuristic vision and 5-year plans. While I believe in planning, I believe a lot more in opportunities, taking them when they come your way, and learning how to grow them. When my eldest son entered a homeopathic medical college, I realized that I could not afford a clinic in Mumbai, with property prices being what they are. I also knew that if a sapling was planted under a banyan tree, it may not get enough light to grow. I therefore decided to open a clinic for him in Bangalore. I personally designed it and started to practice there too. I practiced 20 days in Mumbai and 10 days in Bangalore. The clinic became so successful that the number of patients we saw even outnumbered the patients visiting one of the leading hospitals in Bangalore at that time. Around that time, I also moved from a general practice of over 300 patients a day to a specialized practice which fell to 2 patients a week. But I persevered and persisted, and within a year, my appointments were full for the next year. कदम चूम लेती है मंजिल आकर, कदम चूम लेती है मंजिल आकर, अगर राही खुद अपनी हिम्मत न हारे. So my message to all you young people is perceive, try, and try again till you succeed. I have an interesting story to tell. from my learning in Harvard. When I was 60 years old, my son said, "Papa, you must go to Harvard and do a course in medical excellence." I was one of the oldest students there. And one of my interesting learnings, other than leadership and a lot of other things that I learned, was also how drug companies throw failure parties. And the philosophy over there is that you fail early to succeed fast. And so if you can imagine that the billions of dollars that is spent on drug research, and we keep on trying, and we keep saying, no, we've got the formula, we're going to get it. And in that we keep wasting billions and billions of dollars. So when you understand that you're not going the right way, if you call it off, that's being sensible. Around the same time, I received a call from a Mauritian gentleman saying that he wanted to set up a homeopathy clinic in Mauritius. It took 6 months of signing MOUs and complete partnership formalities, and the clinic was ready for launch. I visited Mauritius to launch the clinic. Through a common journalist friend, I called up the vice president of Mauritius and requested him to inaugurate the clinic. I said, "Sir, I'm opening a clinic. Would you do me an honor of inaugurating it?" He said, "Sure, Dr. Batra, come and see me tomorrow, and I'll be happy to do it." When I met him, the first thing he did was he fired me. And I still remember his words. And he said, "Dr. Batra, you certainly don't expect the vice president of a country to inaugurate a room." I then realized that clinic in French, which was a spoken language in Mauritius at that time, meant a hospital. So he agreed on the phone, thinking that he had to come to inaugurate a hospital and not just a homeopathy clinic. And he then also told me that, I'm a bar at law and I'm the Queen's Counsel. And I've just put a practicing Ayurvedic doctor behind bars because Ayurveda is not recognized in Mauritius. And so is homeopathy. And if you open your clinic tomorrow, I will arrest you and put you behind bars. Luckily, I noticed something on his face. And I said, "Sir, this problem I can treat." He said, "I've been all over the world, nothing can happen." I said, No, let me try it. And that's a long story, but to cut it short, he then became my friend for life, came home for dinner, refusing an official invitation by the governor and, by the prime minister whenever he visited India. He was very fond of music, so he would always get together for a ghazal evening in the evening. And I made very long-lasting friendship with him. And that's how a friendship developed. And ultimately, if you think that, it's very difficult to get bureaucracy moving in India, you must try to work abroad and look at bureaucracy in other countries. It's equally bad, if not worse. And so what followed was 6 months of going every weekend to Mauritius, sitting outside the health minister, the secretaries, all the offices for hours at end, waiting and hoping that they would recognize homeopathy. 6 months later, I remember it was Diwali in 1996, that finally an act was passed in Mauritius which recognized homeopathy, and the act said exactly what we wanted it to say. Because by that time we had befriended everybody in Mauritius. I mean, the president, the prime minister, the health minister, everybody was friends, and that's how it helped. And this is how our first international venture started. Let me tell you that food and health are two of the most regulated businesses all over the world. And therefore, one of the biggest challenges that we have in international markets is to get compliances and regulations for healthcare in any new country that we enter. Also because homeopathy is a new kind of science for them, and there's no corporate in that field at all. There are no set standards for regulation. It has taken us 3 years to get a license in Abu Dhabi and over 2 years to set up a clinic in Bahrain. And all this means that you have to put in investments, and you have to get properties, and you have to set it up, and you have to then wait for 3 years for inspections to happen until you can actually start earning money out of it. So it does need a certain amount of deep pockets. It needs a lot of patience to enter an international market. Having said that, then the thrill of the brand going international and having so many people in different countries experiencing homeopathy successfully is what gives you joy. Similarly, in the early years, the clinics were not planned but happened by chance. One of my colleagues who worked with me for a few years were getting married in Baroda. Her in-laws were conservative and would not allow her to work on her own. She requested me, and I agreed to invest in a clinic in Baroda so that she could continue her practice and would not be domesticated. I strongly believe in economic independence of women. I believe it gives them a right to freedom. This clinic grew well, and thus the idea of a multi-city practice was born. I strongly believe that if you do good with your heart, it comes back to you in this janam only. My mother used to tell me, life is an echo, all comes back, the good, the false, the true. Life is an echo, all comes back, the good, the false, the true. So give the world the best you have, and the best will come back to you. I've always believed that the more you give, the more you get. When I turned 50, I set up Dr. Batra's Foundation, which works on, unlike the Indian formula of 10% commission, works on a 1% formula. 1% of the net profit of the company goes to the foundation. 1% of salaries of staff go to the foundation. 1% of large vendor bills go to the foundation. And therefore, we don't have a fund collection for charity, but we have a system in the organization which allows us to grow as we grow. So it actually motivates us to create wealth so that we can share it. As doctors, we see so much of pain, suffering, and death that we often become insensitive. I walked and complained that I had no shoes till I came across a man who had no feet. To keep our sensitivity alive, we work with the underprivileged, the old age homes, orphanages, and animal shelters. We run 175 free clinics. Last year, we provided 1 lakh free midday meals to children. This year, our vision is to treat 1 lakh patients free of charge, ultimately growing it to a 1 paid patient versus 1 free patient ratio, which means 50% of our patients that we treat will be free. And you know, the government is fighting with hospitals to treat 10% of the patients on charity because they've got free land from the government. It was Mark Twain who said, always do right. It'll gratify some people and astonish the rest. We have never had any cash component in our business. So demonetization was never the demon it turned out to be for others. In fact, we had patients paying us upfront with old notes for long-term treatment for themselves and their families, which we refused because they were just trying to, transfer money from black to white and come to us to do that for them. We believe strongly in the purity of the revenue stream, and all our doctors ask themselves the question whether the patient will benefit or derive some value from the treatment before registering them. I'm proud of the fact that I'm building an Indian multinational, and even more proud of the fact that I've done it by inculcating a very strong and ethical value system in my people. Since we are a service company, our staff is our internal customers. And when they are happy, they deliver customer delight to our external customers, our patients. You must talk to them to experience their belief in their brand and the passion with which they work. रहने दे आसमान ज़मीन की तलाश कर, रहने दे आसमान ज़मीन की तलाश कर, सब कुछ यही है, न कहीं और तलाश कर. हर आरज़ू पूरी हो तो जीने का क्या मज़ा. हर आरज़ू पूरी हो तो जीने का क्या मज़ा. जीने के लिए बस एक वजह की तलाश कर. जीने के लिए बस एक वजह की तलाश कर. And for us at Dr. Batra's, our जीने की वजह is homeopathy. We have our footprint in only 5 countries, while homeopathy is recognized in 86 countries of the world. We have taken a few baby steps towards a long, long journey ahead. I am reminded, and I end with the words of Sir Robert Frost. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have many promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. Thank you very much.
May I now throw it open to questions from this audience? And I request Dr. Saab to respond to all of you. Please give your name, keep your question as brief as possible, and I'm sure Dr. Saab will do that.
Dr. Batra, what are the limitations of homeopathy in terms of the disease?
Good question, and I must answer this in a slightly different way. There are a lot of limitations of homeopathy, like there are in every science. Homeopathy does not deal with emergencies. It does not deal with, hospitalization and disease which requires so. Having said that, it still has a lot of very, very good treatments for acute and chronic cases, particularly for chronic cases for which there is no treatment in other systems of medicine. Having said that, I must say this because we have a lot of doctors who are qualified to practice in Dubai and London, and that's one of the questions they ask by the medical board. It's not what you can treat, but it's also knowing what you can't treat. And so that's why I appreciate your question. And all our doctors are trained to do that. Like I said, it's one of the fundamentals of medicine when they go abroad and when they are practicing. Having said that, also I'd like to just specify that disease today is very complex. There are so many cases now of drug resistance, antibiotics, antibiotic resistant patients, tuberculosis resistant patients. And because we are injudiciously treating ourselves, we are self-medicating, we are not going to doctors. The chemists have become our doctors now, and which is why we are taking medicine when we should not be taking it. Which is why over a period of time, it doesn't act on us at all. So drug resistance is now becoming a big, big problem, and that is why if we judicially treat ourselves and only use chemical medicine when it's absolutely required, is what is the need of the day. The second point that I want to make over here also is that no system of medicine is complete by itself. And because disease is so complex, we should not throw any system out of the window, even if it has some merit. So all over the world today, people are now moving into an integrated system of medicine. For example, our new clinic in Bahrain, which is to start next week, has tied up with one of the largest hospitals over there, the KIMS Hospital, where it's a clinic in hospital model. So Dr. Batra's clinic is part of a large multi-speciality hospital, which will then give homeopathic treatment for patients who also wish to take treatment in homeopathy. So this is the model going forward as well. So I think every system of medicine has its merit, and every system of medicine has its limitation. And I think it's for the consumer to decide and judge what will work for him, and it's also for the doctor to advise correctly. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Doctor. I'm Pramod Shah, practicing company secretary and corporate advisor. Sir, only one small thing I want to ask you: where operation is needed, sir, how the homeopathy could help us? Interested.
Yeah. So now, with the operation needed, depends actually on the disease and the stage at which it is. So, for example, homeopathy is very good for warts. When I was a medical student, I had 28 warts on my face. And all of them fell off with the homeopathic medicine. Only one was left on my neck, which I used to call the swear wart. And after that also disappeared. So normally, warts are things which you cauterize or you do surgery. Similarly, there are lots of cases of sinus, nasal polyps, kidney stones, which unnecessarily under tonsillectomy, which is unnecessarily operated upon. So today, there's a difference between elective surgery and between compulsory surgery. So where you have to operate, operation is required, you must operate. But just because there is no treatment in one system of medicine, that doesn't mean that there is no system in any other system of medicine. And therefore, there are so many operatable diseases which can be treated through homeopathic medicine. I've given you examples of sinusitis, of nasal polyps, of kidney stones. But again, it depends on the size, the position, and a lot of other factors as well. And also, I just want to add that homeopathy abroad is a super specialization. So you have a lot of homeopathic dentists who practice homeopathy. You have homeopathic surgeons who practice homeopathy, including one Dr. Shamshi used to practice in KM Hospital. He was a surgeon, he used to do surgery. So you can still use homeopathy successfully pre-operatively and post-operatively instead of using antibiotics.
Good evening, sir. This is Govinda from Ambernath. Would like to know about the franchisee model, some highlights on the USP, as you are working with the lots of doctors. So what you people are keeping the USP, which others are not having? That USP focus I wanted to know.
So obviously, the USP focus for a franchisee model are two. Number one is association with the brand. I think there has to be a lot of brand pride that gets created, and there's a lot of associating with a wellness brand and healing people. So for example, if you go to a city like Kolhapur or Sholapur or Ahmednagar, where we don't do our own but a franchisee partner does it, he must get the pride in saying that I brought Dr. Batra's and I brought homeopathy to benefit my people. So there has to also be a very strong social message, which is very important in our franchisee partners. Having said that, no franchisee partner will come to you unless you have a strong business model. So the business model that we have is that whatever investment they make operational break-evens within 2.5 months of opening the clinic. And within 1 year to 2 years, they recover the capital investment as well. So it's a very strong business model, which is why we have 80 partners. Having said that, 80 franchisees in Tier 3, Tier 4 cities. Having said that, almost all the other businesses we own ourselves, we invest ourselves. And even the franchisee we manage ourselves. And we started franchising in Tier 3, Tier 4 cities only after we opened a 100th clinic. So only after we were very sure that we have a very strong business model which we can manage well, because we had a very strong IT structure. Our IT head is also sitting here, where all our 225 clinics are networked 24/7, where I have live data coming on my mobile phone, and all top management mobile phone can actually press a button and see which patient is sitting where, how much doctor has spent, how much time with the patient, what is the patient satisfaction, all that is live. So having built those processes and systems and having a very strong training program in place and having selected the right partners is really when you should go for a franchisee. I think the mistake that a lot of people make is they think that they've not created a brand and they have 2 or 3 branches and then they want to multiply it to get easy money. That's not the way to go forward, because then there will be pitfalls and you will have a lot of problems. Yes, Mudit.
I want to just say it should be Indian icon apart from business icon. But my question is, Doc, you're both an entrepreneur and a doctor. So I don't know what comes first, or how did you, because doctors are really not entrepreneurs, or entrepreneurs aren't doctors, or if you can. My question is not clear, but that combination of medical entrepreneur.
Mudit, you're such a good friend of mine that I understand everything you say even without asking. So thank you for the question. And it's a very good question. And I think this was a major dharam sankat that I had. Because, to move from a doctor to an entrepreneur, it requires a huge mental shift. Let me tell you this, that as a doctor, we are always giving. And as an entrepreneur, you have to ask for favors. So there's a huge dichotomy between the two. I mean, as a doctor, if we had a poor patient, we put our things in a hand. Any professional, I think, does that and says, okay, I'll treat you free of charge. Not only that, your daughters can't get education here, go and pay for them, because you get moved and you get touched by it. You're always giving as a professional. You're not taking. As an entrepreneur, you have to sometimes ask for favors. I mean, I've resisted from doing that. I've made sure that I stood in line. And like Amitabh Bachchan said, line wahan se shuru hote hai, jahan hum khade hote hain. We try to do that, but it's not easy. So sometimes we have to wait 3 years to get a license. Sometimes we have to wait 2 years to get a license. Like I said, we are a squeaky clean company. We've never bribed anybody to get any work done. So we wait. And we wear them down, if I may use that term. But it's difficult. Yes. And I would say that while I enjoy my role as a doctor, because I have a direct reach with my patients and connect, and I can heal many more people, but I'm also very proud of the fact that I became an entrepreneur, because when I was treating patients, I used to treat 3,000 patients in a month. Today, my company and my doctors treat 175,000 patients in a month. I would not have got that scale of reach if I was not to become an entrepreneur and not to multiply and train other doctors. So I'm happy that I can reach more people.
Hi, this is Alpana, and I really liked and appreciate the way you narrated your journey. My question is, do you still practice? And second question is, how do you do the qualitative study of the customer satisfactions across branches and cities? And how do you really see that the treatment is really applying well? Thank you.
Great question. Thank you. The first thing is I practice electively and selectively, which means I don't practice. Okay, but I've got a lot of, my patients who are 40 years with me, we are still treating as a family, 4 generations of people. So I do give a second opinion to my doctors. I do review cases whenever it's required. Sometimes there are some very difficult cases who need help. So I do reach out to people and I do help them out. So that's the answer to your first question. The answer to your second question is that there are many methods that we follow to understand whether we have customer satisfaction or the patient experience is actually the same across all 225 outlets or not. The first is that more than 10 years ago, we have started mystery customers, like any other brand does. So we have people going to the clinics and then reporting back to us what was the experience. So experience is at every touch point. It can be at the front desk, it can be at the security, it can be at the dispensing counter, it can be with the doctor. It can be whether the registration time took too long, whether the toilets are clean, whether the air conditioning was okay, whether it was too cold, whether the reading material was adequate. So just like any other company, all of that comes to us, and this is live data that comes to all of us. So we get it, and it then goes to respective heads of department to start correcting it. So our benchmark is, we understand that we can't get 100% patient experience because today the consumer is very, very finicky. So our benchmark is that it has to be more than 90%. So most of our clinics today have a benchmark of about 96% of customer experience. This is one thing that we do. The second thing is that just like how you have at Heathrow airports, in London and many other international airports of the world, the moment you finish your customs and your security, you have a smiley rating. You press the button and you say, are you happy, not happy, whatever, and you click it. Now the moment you click this, all top management gets live feedback through every of the 225 outlets and every customer who walked in. So you then get a chance to correct it online. And it then is scaled up into a scale. So so automatically tells you whether people are 90% happy, 98% happy, and then what are the problems that they face, and automatically that gets corrected online. Then of course there's a customer service cell, which then also corrects, if there are any problems. There's a system in the organization, I told you, very IT dependent. So, for example, if a patient goes to a clinic and for 2 turns he's not feeling better, it gets upscaled automatically to a medical audit team, which is all senior doctors who are about 25 years of experience. And they will then review or call for a free video conferencing with the patient from whichever city he's from, and then give him a second opinion. So there are lots of systems and processes in place which make sure that the patient experience and the patient outcome, which is really a bigger challenge, is continuously monitored. So how do you monitor patient outcome? I've told you patient experience, because there is also a challenge in Harvard. All the top doctors who came there said, you can take your cardiogram and say you're perfectly all right, and you step out of the door and you have a heart attack, you drop dead. So how do you measure patient outcomes? That's always the challenge. So for the last 7 years from the time of Harvard, we've actually worked with a group of doctors, including international doctors, and we have now made medical protocols for all the diseases that we treat. And these are also then process driven. So for example, if you're a patient of hair loss and I feel that you're anemic and your iron level is low, if the doctor has not done your serum ferritin test, it will not allow the doctor to move to the next level. So that is how then standardization of processes and systems takes place across the country. And of course, a lot of it has to do with the correct selection of doctors, because we select only 3% of everybody who applies to us. Every doctor in the company, my HR head is also here, my chief people's officer. Every doctor who applies in the company goes through a psychometric analysis. So he may be medically fit and academically very strong, but is he a people's person? Does he relate with people or not? That's also very important. So that also is seen before selecting a doctor. And then of course there is, like I said, an average company does about 100 continued medical education programs, hours in a year. We do around 450. And again, because we are 24/7 connected, we can do live webinars, we can talk to people when they're off hours, we can train them, and we can actually do this also not from India, but also from some of the top doctors all over the world. So I hope that adequately answered your question.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So on behalf, Dr. Batra, on behalf of the chamber and this lovely audience, I'd like to thank you. You have taught the entrepreneurs the 5 mantras of your success. I was just noting down some of the points as you were speaking. You said you have to have faith in what you're trying to do. If you don't have faith, you won't last the distance. Second thing is perseverance. He said, and patience is required. He had to wait for 3 years, 2 years, whatever it is. It takes a lot of patience to succeed as an entrepreneur. The fourth thing he said is taking pride in whatever you do. And lastly, he said customer focus. And that was very clear from all that he said, how he recruits, how he trains, what kind of knowledge systems he has created, despite being a conventional homeopathic business where people don't do these things. He just changed the whole game. And therefore, he was succeeded. So, Dr. Batra, you have shown the audience and the world that nothing is impossible. Thank you very much for that. Because a lot of people lose faith halfway. Okay? You have shown the audience in the world that there's an opportunity waiting in every profession. As the gentleman just asked you, a doctor become an entrepreneur, doctor, how does it work? And you said that irrespective of which profession, there is an opportunity for an entrepreneur to thrive and succeed. Thank you for that. You have shown the audience and the world that people do spend. I looked at your website also. People spend on healthcare, and when they get rich, they spend on wellness and their vanity. So there is business in hair renewal. There's business opportunity in hair removal also. Okay. So, and you made if you look at your website or your products, I can see there's a lot of thinking that's gone into it. You've shown the audience and the world that Indian entrepreneurs have arrived. He's talked about 86 countries where homeopathy is practiced. He says, I'm only in 5 countries so far, only in 5 countries, because he has got to complete the other 81. And we wish you a lot of luck in achieving that. And I'm sure Dr. Hanuman will be very proud that you have taken his practice across the world. Okay? So we are very proud that we had this opportunity to have you here with us and inspire the audience, which is comprised of very young entrepreneurs, some not so young, but all of whom will take back some lessons, apply it, and as our president said, start something, start some business, employ people, create employment in this country, and help the country grow. Thank you very much for being a lovely audience. And thank you, Dr. Batra.